My guest today is Doug Shepard, who has over 20 years of experience in professional hockey. He's an experienced player agent and trusted family advisor who takes the time to build strong personal relationships with his clients and their families. In today's episode, Doug will share his inspirational story of pursuing his dreams. Welcome to my show, Doug.
Yeah, thanks for having me, James. Appreciate it.
I am looking forward to this. From where are you calling in today?
I'm just south of Boston, about 45 minutes south of Boston, close to beautiful Cape Cod. So it's a nice day here, and yeah. So
now, where are you originally from, though?
I'm originally from Newfoundland in eastern Canada, which is way out there, as some people would say in the North Atlantic. And I spent most of my childhood in Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island, so the eastern part of Canada. I've been back and forth between both countries, Canada and the U.S., throughout my life with my hockey playing and my hockey business.
Wow. How did you, when you were a kid, what drew you to hockey?
Well, my dad played hockey, and I mean, in Canada, as you know, it seems like everybody at least tries it or plays it, So he threw me on skates probably when I was, 4 or 5 years old, and I never looked back.
Wow.
It's been a part of my life since, as long as I can remember I've played the game.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you compare the culture of hockey to other sports, what's the same and what's different?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, there's a lot of the hockey culture. You see a lot of players that come from families that were either, fishermen or farmers or really blue collar type backgrounds. And, don't like to use the word poverty, but certainly, a lot of families who really, made it hard to make ends meet and kids grew up just grinding it out and playing hockey. And I think you really see that in a lot of even the professional, the NHL players now. You see that mentality. Very humble group.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
for the most part.
And I think also just the camaraderie aspect as well. So if most people aren't as fluent as perhaps other people, but to have that camaraderie that everybody's rooting for a certain team, I'm sure that really builds community.
Well, I think of the team sports, it's the one where you really rely on that, basketball, I'm certainly not an expert in the other sports, but, certainly basketball, you have like your superstars who control, a good portion of the game. Baseball, you have your pitcher and then your home run hitters. Football, you get your quarterback. Hockey, even though the goaltender is probably the kind of the backbone of the team, you've got 23 guys there that are really going to battle for each other, and there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, exactly. Now, some people will talk about the violence of it. How would you say about that? Because I think it's just, I'm not minimizing violence, but what would you say about that?
Yeah, I think, in the last few years, it's probably been blown out of proportion. The game has certainly gone to much more of a skilled game in the last, 15 to 20 years. It was a rough and tumble game, in the 70s and 80s. There's no question about that. And now it's gone to more of a skill game. But I think what's happening is the players are so big and so fast and so athletic. Is when a player does deliver like a crushing body check, it can be devastating.
Especially going that fast,
there is some danger of the game. Yeah, there's the speed of the game now compared to 25 years ago is unbelievable. And that's what's leading, I think, to people saying, "Oh, well, it's violent." Well, it's fast and it's physical.
Well, and exactly. I think if you think of any sport, any contact sport, there's going to be violent. You have like you said, really large people doing really a lot of things. Of course, someone's going to get hurt. And so I think that's just with anything really. So it's not about. I don't want to focus on the violence of it because that's moot because it's just a great game. Yeah. But it is neat to see how people get so impassioned about the game, and that's so cool to see. People have like the Super Bowl, all that is a lot of American sports as well, and people get so impassioned with it. So I love to see the camaraderie of it. I've been to quite a few games when I was younger, and it was so neat to see. You would see how people are just so connected to their team, and it's almost like their avatar. And it was always really cool for me to watch peripherally as I watch, doing what I do, to just kind of focus on that. So it is pretty cool. Now for you though, go ahead, what?
Well, I was just going to say on Monday night, I was at the Boston Garden, or the TD Garden as they call it now, for the Islanders-Bruins playoff game. And, we're getting back to reality a little bit here, and the building was full. And I texted my wife, it was shaking. People were going absolutely bananas. But it's great to see that, after what we've gone through in the last 18 months.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, it definitely is. When you were in professional hockey, How was that for you? Because I know it was something you wanted to do so bad since you were a child. How was it for you to actually get into the professional hockey arena? No pun intended.
Uh, yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I think everybody, wants to follow their passion and
Uh,
follow their dream. And, I had a bit of a different kind of route, to becoming a player agent. I was a minor league player myself, and I built a lot of relationships in the pro game,
mhm.
through that avenue.
Yeah.
And I really always thought I would get into the management side of business.
Oh, that's right. You talked about
With the league, I thought
that.
would go with a team, and I did dabble in that. I did work for some
Hmm.
professional hockey teams for a while, and it's like any business, it's tough, and things have to line up, and the stars have to align for you to get
Yeah.
certain positions, and I had the opportunity to start representing a few younger players, and I started to have some success with it. And all of a sudden, I got a real excitement and a real passion for
Oh,
becoming an
wow.
agent. And
That's awesome.
so I think, when you go into an arena and you watch, your player who,
Uh,
becomes like a son to you,
yeah, I'm sure.
become an NHLer or score a big goal or, win a big game. I mean, it's exciting. It does
Yeah.
fulfill that dream.
Well, tell me more about what a player agent does.
Well, I think one of the biggest, first of all, we have to recruit players so young to get them.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I think that's pretty prevalent across most
Sure.
sports.
Yeah.
Is you're going after these young elite athletes, in their teens. So you're playing babysitter for a few years. I mean, that's your
Oh
biggest.
gosh. Yeah. I bet. Yeah.
You're a cheerleader, and you're a
Yeah.
family advisor, and you're trying to look after these kids.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges,
Yeah.
especially when the players are amateurs and they haven't reached the professionals. You got to hold on to them, and you've got to be their
Oh, yeah.
biggest cheerleader and their biggest kind of caretaker.
Well, a lot of them get instant fame or recognition quite quickly. How do you help them when they get a little too big for their britches or put themselves in
Hmm.
positions that's not the healthiest for them?
Well, I mean, going back to one of your first questions is about like hockey players and how they
Yeah.
are. And I, first and foremost, I am trying to recruit a young player who's grounded,
Ah,
who's got
makes sense.
strong character,
Yeah.
who the family is very grounded. So, I'm not saying I haven't dealt with certain situations like that, but
Hmm.
certainly my goal in recruiting is to, you know, sign a player that I don't have those issues with.
Yeah.
I mean,
Makes sense.
that's probably number one. Because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, in this business, if his values don't line up with yours, you're probably going to lose him to another agency
Sure.
anyway. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and that might
So,
be for the best interest. But excuse me, that may be the best thing at the end of the day, anyway. Because if you're not, if
yeah.
it doesn't work, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think that's a big piece of it is just making sure that, it's upstanding character that you're recruiting because you need
Hmm.
those players, you know, if they're not going to trust you with the little decisions, they're not going to trust you when there's millions of dollars on the table and you're
Yeah.
trying to work out the best,
Yeah.
deal for them.
Now you had to go through quite a bit of schooling for that, right? Or credentialing for that. Isn't that correct?
There's not a ton of schooling and credentialing that directly pertains to being an
Hmm.
agent on the NHL side. There is a process, but you know, my foray into the business was I was a player and I built those relationships with management, and I studied business in university and got my degree when I was playing hockey. So I had some
Hmm.
business background, but I'm not a lawyer. And
Sure.
I didn't have to go through rigorous testing to become certified. It's a little bit
Sure.
different.
Gotcha. Okay. When you kind of reflect back on when you were, I guess what you said, 3 or 4 years old on your skates, and you wanted to be a player, then you were a player, and then you wanted to go to management, but now you're an agent. How has that kind of played out for you? Because you had a long term goal, and you're
Yeah.
still working on your goal, of course. Because as we know, research states that everybody goes through about 5 different versions of their career. So it may be in the same field, but the iterations of it change. So
Right.
you're what, your third iteration of that. What would that look like for you moving forward, or how would you? Let me rephrase that. So with everything that's happened, and it's been slightly different from management to now to being a player agent. How does that? What's that experience like for you?
Yeah, there's definitely been some pivoting, on
Hmm.
my part in terms of,
Yeah.
what I've done and where I'm going. And there's been some, resiliency I feel, on my part to be able to get through some
Hmm.
of the obstacles that I had to
Sure.
tackle. So yeah, like you said, I mean, player into, scouting slash player development slash management, I guess, was my second stage, and then into a player agency. So, I mean, currently I'm focused on growing, my agency, and I'm focused on recruiting that next wave of good players. But,
Yes.
the business is changing. I mean, I had a call with some ex-Olympic female players recently, and we were just chatting about where the girls' game is going, right? So, like, you always wonder, well, are the girls going to end up with their own professional league? I think they will. I mean, they've had kind of variations of professional hockey in North America with the girls, but I think they're really poised to have like a legit female professional hockey league. I think it's on the horizon. I think a lot of the girls do too. So you wonder, like, what type of opportunities there will be on that side, whether it's as a player representative or a manager. You wonder, I guess, sometimes where the business is going and how different major league teams are going to structure their front offices. You're seeing it now with analytics becoming huge. Of course, baseball started, Moneyball and, the Oakland A's, 20 years ago with bringing in, really bringing analytics to the forefront. Well, that's coming to hockey. It's in hockey. There are analytics departments, and it's coming in a bigger wave. So I think just being on the cusp of everything that's happening and that's coming down the pipe in, say, the next 10 to 20 years is where my head's at, and I really enjoy what I'm doing. I really enjoy the personal aspect of dealing with the players, one-on-one. But it'll be interesting to see, where the industry goes.
I like hearing how you're in front of that as well. I mean, obviously you're talking to a lot of these other players, but I mean, it's about time that obviously hockey can have a female team. I mean, that's just seems like a no-brainer. Is that something that you, obviously we'll talk offline about this because I'm really excited about that. Is that something that you can get in the forefront of, that you can really be the representative of all these new teams and professional teams?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where that's going to go right now. As certified agents by the NHLPA, we're mandated to only represent, NHL players. We cannot represent coaches or managers.
I get that.
So I don't really know, but I think it's exciting to think of the possibilities of what's happening and where it's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? You may be the owner of one of the teams that started.
You just never. Really cool. You never know. You never know.
Yeah, with everything that's happened with COVID and sports, professional sports took a hiatus for a while. How did that affect you and your dream of staying in professional hockey?
Well, it's changed. It's really changed, certainly how we've done business in the last year and a half. I mean, there was very little face-to-face. There was very little recruiting, face-to-face. I mean, I had, Zoom call meetings with potential families that we were recruiting. I think, like, the players themselves at the professional level got used to not seeing us. So, I mean, that's a good thing. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't really know yet. I mean, like, we've maybe cut back on being around too much, with those guys. But I also think that some of them, I know some of my guys probably leaned on me. I probably talked to them more, either by FaceTime or call, because, when we were going out and seeing them, you'd go see a player, October 1st, and then, get your FaceTime with them, have dinner or whatever. And then maybe it might be, I'm not saying it's a month before you contact them, but before you had real deep conversation, you might not be another month. But with COVID, I found there was deep conversations happening every week. There was just a lot of contact just because of everything that was going on, if guys had families or if guys were Canadians living in the U.S., there was always something. So COVID maybe in a way brought you closer to your clients in a lot of respects.
More effective communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. How is it for you? Because, just to see the games, to have like the digital audiences or to have all, people spaced out. How is that? It seems like such a surreal experience.
Yeah, it's funny. The first, it's different. The first game I went back to, I went to an NHL ring a couple of months ago and they started letting, a couple of fans in, and I was sitting there and of course there's really nobody around you within like 10 or 20 feet of you because everybody's spread out, And I'm hearing this sound, and I was thinking, what the heck is that? And it was pumped in crowd noise.
Oh wow!
So you're sitting in the rink, and it's like it's not quiet, but you're hearing some fans talk, but then you're hearing this like ooh whoa, like this wave. And then for the first period, I was like, what is that? And then I realized that's what been hearing on TV for the last year.
It was like It's kind of like
pumping crowd noise.
the canned audience stuff. Like you hear like a laugh track or a clap track that you hear on a lot of the sitcoms, which I can't stand. But anyway, it's so funny. That's so weird. I mean, I
Exactly.
guess you'd have to make the experience to seem like it is real. But yeah, wow, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
obviously
yeah.
didn't go to any of the games or matches, but that's so funny. I didn't even hear. It would
But
be
it was
really
great to get back in the rink this week. I mean, to
yeah.
really get back to like a full packed
Hmm.
house and the
Yeah,
energy, and
I
you're seeing
bet
that
the
now
energy's
around the country. Yeah,
yeah.
it's been good.
Wow. When we talked about this before, but you remind me a lot of Jerry Maguire. I mean, everybody who's probably seen that movie. How is it for you though? Because have you had situations like that where you have we're going to work with individuals and then all of a sudden the deals went bad? Because there's just huge life lessons there when you plan on something and then when life changes, especially if there's, and this is my words, not yours, but if there's a commission that goes along with it that you had assumed would be part of your revenue, and then all of a sudden that doesn't happen. I mean, there's so many life lessons there. So how is it for you to be a Jerry Maguire and have some of these situations happen?
I mean, the movie is so precise. I mean, it is
Show me the
just
money.
as we say in Newfoundland or in the Maritimes, is spot on. Like
Yeah.
it was like it was, and the scene where the guy, comes up to Jerry, and says, "Hey, I told you my word was oak, and
Mm-hmm.
we are the most trustworthy people." And then the night before the draft, he leaves them. I
Yeah.
mean, I've had that exact
Really? Oh my
scenario for
gosh.
a first round pick guy who the dad was this guy that he sang that whole song of
Wow.
like, we are so loyal, da, 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 da. And then when push came to shove, I put so much time into it. The eve of the draft wouldn't really be the eve of the draft,
Yeah,
but
I get
certainly
it.
on the eve of like the important time that was coming up, you get the call of, "Hey, sorry, we're going to go with another agency," and so I've been there a few times.
What did you learn
Never
from that? I
fun.
mean, yeah, well, of course not. How did you learn from that? Is it more, I mean, I'm not a professional with
Yeah.
this at all, but what did you learn from that? Because I mean, do you now, well, I don't want to give away your process, but what did you learn from all that?
I think there's different lessons that you take away from it, and there
Mm-hmm.
might be like one or two small things that you did or didn't do that you say, okay, maybe I would have changed that, or
Okay.
maybe I would have
That's good.
positioned
Okay.
myself this way.
Sure.
But I mean, at the end of the day, like these people, I feel, and this is personally, I feel that there was a lot of things that I did for those people that you know, just got thrown out the window and,
Yeah.
out with the garbage that they didn't realize that were big things. And there might have been one small thing that maybe I didn't do, and that's what
Mm.
they focused
Oh,
on making their excuse or whatever,
I
as
see.
to why they left. But that's the business. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like one of my partners said, it's like dating, I mean, like you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
it really
Yeah,
is like,
yeah, I could see
it's
that
gonna be some,
analogy with that.
you're gonna break up sometimes, I guess, if there's something you don't like about the person, or if something starts to
Mm-hmm.
it just really is. It's like I guess it's
Yeah.
like dating.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I know we have probably about 3 more minutes.
Okay.
Highlight some of your clients. I want to hear about them.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, I don't know. I mean, not knowing exactly who's listening, but if they don't follow the league, I do have some younger clients in the
Sure.
NHL. One is Philip Myers. He plays for the Philadelphia Flyers. He's a big right shot defenseman,
Mm-hmm.
who was passed over in the NHL draft, didn't get drafted, but ended up playing for Team Canada in the World Juniors, won a silver medal.
Wow.
Played for Team Canada with the World Championships 2 years ago and won a silver medal. And now he's only 24. He's really embarking on like what we hope will be a solid
Mm-hmm.
NHL career. He's got potential to be a real good
Yeah.
player. Another player I have is Ross Johnson. He's with the New York Islanders. They just moved on. They beat the Boston Bruins last night
Oh,
in the
nice.
second round, so they're moving on to the semifinals. He hasn't been playing. He's not injured. He's been a healthy scratch.
Uh-huh.
He's a physical player. He's 6'5",
Holy cow.
235.
Holy moly.
He's one of the toughest players in the NHL.
Wow.
And
Sounds like
so he's a player who's an aggressive player. He can certainly drop the gloves and fight if need be, but he's also
Mm-hmm.
turned himself into a very
Nice.
serviceable player. And every time,
It's so important.
he's one of my favorite stories because every time he gets in the lineup, he does his job and helps the team. And I think a lot of people ripped on him earlier in the year or earlier in his career and said, this guy's just a fighter and a goon. He can't play.
Mm.
And he's proven he can play.
Nice.
and he's proven that. So he's a good one. Another kid I represent is Zach Mcewen. He plays for the Vancouver Canucks, and he's a big kid too, 6'3", but and a tough player, but with a lot of skill. And Zach is if you can go on Instagram, and he's got a great personality.
Oh, cool.
You can see he's one of the new age players. He's got his dog is on there on Instagram,
Oh,
and
you can't go wrong with that.
yeah, and he's a very he's just a really fun person, a really good person. And he actually just started a foundation. His father passed away tragically last year, and suddenly, and he was young, and they started a foundation called My Biggest Fan, because his father was a huge hockey fan, a huge fan of Zach's. And they started a foundation to help children with the costs associated with playing hockey, because it's an expensive sport. So the foundation launched. Myself and his family launched it about a month ago, and it's been amazing, the reception we got. So mybiggestfan.ca, if anybody's listening and they want to check it out. It's a great initiative, and Zach's a young player, making his way in the NHL, and he's going to help a lot of kids. So I'm pretty excited for him and his foundation.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Wow. We'll have to talk more about that offline. I'm curious to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Shepard, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on my show today. Thank you so much. I enjoyed talking with you, getting to get the behind the scenes aspects of what it is in professional hockey, but also just your own story, just how to continue on with your career, whether it went in the direction you want. But the cool thing is you just basically started. I mean, you're so young, and so you have the rest of your life in this career, which I think is absolutely wonderful. So thank you so much. If my listeners want to find out more information about you, to learn more about your agency, to work with you, to learn more about your players, where do they find this information online?
Yeah, our website is asmhockey.com. So Achieve Sports Management is our group. So if you want to visit asmhockey.com, you can learn more about us. And thanks so much for having me on, James.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Okay, thank you.